I am with Carl Sandifer at the Oklahoma City Rattlesnake Museum. Carl has just opened this museum. How did all this get started, Carl?
Well, excuse me, I worked for the zoo in the mid 80s for the Oklahoma City Zoo. And then I had my own little educational facility called Creepy Hollow Living Museum. And I thought, well, after we got going and got busy doing schools and things, I had to close the museum. But I was working various places around town, and people would always bring me animals that they couldn't keep. They weren't sure what they should do with them. And of course, harmless snakes can be released, lizards can be released, but venomous snakes proposes a problem. So I never could tell them no, I'm not going to take it. So I ended up taking them. Long story short, I ended up with a couple shelvings full of rattlesnakes and copperheads and things like that. So I thought, well, why don't we open up a museum just for everybody to learn what they look like, to identify them, maybe some of their habits, some of their natures. Oklahoma has a lot of different types of venomous snakes, 7 to be exact, and people need to know where they are. A lot of them get into yards and garages and uh, patio sheds and things like that, so they could identify them in case somebody was bit. I always tell everybody, I'm going to leave every snake alone, and that way we don't have to worry about it. Been taking care of snakes for about 50 years. So learned a lot. Had a few close calls. Was bitten by a Western Diamondback. Uh, Survived that no problem. Just had king cobra venom on me when I worked at the zoo. It's just been an exciting life, but something to do.
Now, you opened to the public on July 4th,
We
right?
opened on July 4th. We had a soft opening, and then the main opening was July 5th.
Ah,
And through the weekend, through Sunday, for the 5 days, we were over 1,600 people came through.
yeah, I know you've got a couple special snakes here. I'm going to ask you about one of them is a big diamondback,
Eastern Diamondback
Eastern
Rattlesnake, yes.
Diamondback rattlesnake. And then there's another one that's a albino rattlesnake.
Right, right. Okay.
So this is the other attraction. Right here we've got
Now, albino Western Diamondback Rattlesnake.
an albino Western Diamondback rattlesnake here that Carl is taking out to show us. This is one of the star attractions here. And can you tell me briefly a little bit about this albino rattlesnake?
Well, they're not as rare as they used to be. It's actually what you call amelanistic. It lacks all the dark pigment in the skin, so it would not survive in the wild. But people tend to breed them anymore quite a bit, and you get all different color varieties: pink and lavender and purple. This is the yellow, the amelanistic version. Same rattlesnake, just lacks all the dark pigment in the skin. It's actually, you can see, he's really not very aggressive. He's used to being handled, being in captivity. He's using his tongue to smell all the different smells. Probably smells the rest of the rattlesnakes. He's wondering what's going on here. There could be a girl around here that's ready for breeding, so you might pick up on that.
Okay, we're right here in front of one of the special attractions here at the museum, Big Girl. Tell me a little bit about Big Girl.
Well, Big Girl is an Eastern Diamondback Rattlesnake. She is about 9.5 years old now, and she was born in Florida, which is where their natural range is. A friend of mine took several babies back to Seattle, Washington with him, and he raised them up, and he's bred her, and she's produced quite a few young. And it got to be where she was older, she got so heavy that he was concerned that she needed to be on exhibit for people to see her and let her live out the rest of her life. So he sent her to us so she could be the focal point of our museum. So they dubbed her Big Girl, and she is Big Girl. She weighs 22 pounds. She eats a large rat probably once every 2 weeks. Her rattle is small. Don't know that you guys can see, but uh, she had about 15 buttons on her rattle and then because she crawled over it. So, and since a rattlesnake only gets a new button about after, excuse me, after they shed, he's probably only going to get maybe 4 or 5 new buttons for the rest of their lives. So 12 to 15 is very, very rare with that one. So, but we're hoping, and she seems in great health. She's actually adjusted to captivity so well since she's been in captivity so long.